You're watching the legal breakdown. So, Glenn, Donald Trump, of course, owes $455 million in the New York fraud case. He tried asking the judge for that payment to be halted, and the judge just responded to his request. So, what happened here?
Yeah, what happened here, Brian, reading between the lines, is Donald Trump is scrambling on the financial front because I don't believe for a minute that he has that money to put up $455 million. And we'll talk in a minute about why I believe he doesn't have that money. But here's what happened. Basically, when the judge enters a final order in the case, that starts a clock ticking, and the losing party has 30 days to put up or shut up, put up the money, either pay it out to the winning party or put it into an escrow account for the court while they appeal the judgment. I don't think for a minute Donald Trump has $455 million to either pay out or to put in an escrow account so he can appeal the verdict. So what he did is he said, please, Judge Engoron, we need more time. Can you delay entering the judgment by 30 days to give us some more time? Interestingly, Brian, they don't say why. They don't say why they want or need more time. So Judge Engoron replied basically with one line. You haven't even offered a reason for the stay.
Yeah,
Never mind.
actually, I'll put it on the screen. It's you have failed to explain, much less justify, any basis for a stay. I am confident that the appellate division will protect your appellate rights.
Yeah. You have neither offered a reason, and you certainly haven't justified your request to delay entering the judgment. Sorry, sport, you're out of luck. I don't think Judge Engoron used the word sport. That's my editorial addition.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why it's pretty clear Donald Trump does not have the money to put up. Think about the series of money judgments that have been entered against him. The first one in the first E. Jean Carroll trial, $5 million. The second one in the second E. Jean Carroll trial, $83.3 million. And now the third one, the granddaddy of all money judgments against Donald Trump, $455 million. So what has happened across the spectrum of these three cases? In the first case, the $5 million judgment case, Donald Trump filed an appeal. But to file that appeal, he had to fork over to the court I think it was $5 million because he had to put up some money for the interest that would accrue during the appeal. And he couldn't even get a bond. What does that tell you? Nobody was willing to step up and be the bondsman and say, you know what? I can guarantee that Donald Trump is good for it. He'll make good on that money judgment if he loses his appeal. So what Donald Trump had to do was come up with $5.5 million and hand it over to the court to be held in an escrow account. I don't believe for a minute Donald Trump would tie up $5 million of his own money if he didn't have to, if he could have gotten a money bond, somebody to post a bond for him, because that $5 million otherwise could be earning interest. It could be invested. I don't think anybody will vouch for Donald Trump. And Brian, if they won't vouch for him for a $5 million money judgment, the next one is $83 million, and the one after that is $455 million. I think that's what prompted Donald Trump and his lawyers to file this desperate plea with Judge Engoron, of whom they've been so respectful throughout the course of the trial. Interestingly, when you read the 1.5-page letter that they submitted begging for this 30-day extension, they signed it, respectfully submitted. Donald Trump's lawyers, you know what? That may be the first respectful submission they made in this entire litigation, and neither Judge Engoron nor Attorney General James are falling for it.
It's like with newfound respect. That's like the sign off now. Glenn, Judge Engoron did allude to the fact that that they would be able to avail themselves of the appellate division. What are Trump's options as far as appealing this decision?
Yeah, that was a bit of a backhanded slap by Judge Engoron. It almost felt tongue in cheek when he's like, don't worry. You'll have a chance to appeal, and I'm sure the appellate division will treat your case fairly. But here's the box that Donald Trump is in. In order to file the appeal, he's got to put up that $455 million amount, give it to the court in escrow, or again, get some bondsman, some insurance company to step up and say, for a fee, Donald Trump, we will guarantee that you will make good on that massive money judgment in the event you lose your appeal. Now, the kind of fee that would be involved, getting a bond or getting an insurance company to make that
It's
guarantee.
basically like $400 million.
Yeah. So I don't think Donald Trump has enough money to even appeal the case. So I think he is in deep and desperate financial straits right now. That's why he humbly, if you can imagine that, newfound humility, as you say, humbly asked for another 30-day extension. And the court said, yeah, tell it to the appellate division.
So just to clarify here, if he wants to appeal, he has to put up the money, and if he doesn't appeal, then he has 30 days to come up with the money anyway. So either way, he has to come up with the money right now.
Yes, it's a very sweet box in which Donald Trump finds himself. Not sweet for Donald Trump, but certainly sweet for accountability that is long overdue.
Well, to that point, what happens if Trump can't pay the money?
So then the next step would be Attorney General James and her team would begin applying to the court to enforce the money judgment. And that can take any number of forms. They can seek to seize his property, including his real property, that is his real estate, his beloved building like Trump Tower. And then it could be sold off to begin satisfying the money judgment. Interestingly, one thing we don't know, Brian, is how much equity does he have in all of these properties? These properties may be so heavily mortgaged, so encumbered that, even if his properties were seized and sold, it might not satisfy that $455 million judgment. But one avenue of enforcement is having his real property seized and sold. They can put liens on some of his properties and some of his assets. They could garnish his wages in the event he has any wages coming to him from his own organization, the Trump organization. So there are multiple enforcement mechanisms, but it wouldn't surprise me, Brian, if very soon you started to see the Attorney General for New York start to use the court system to go after all of Donald Trump's assets.
Well, then to that point, what about the E. Jean Carroll ruling? Because Donald Trump owes $88 million, which is the 83 plus the initial five. It's almost been a full month now. So does that mean that Donald Trump is either coming up with the money or he has come up with the money there?
Yeah, I believe the date is the 26th of February will be the day that Donald Trump has to put up or shut up. I don't think he has the money to put up. So Roberta Kaplan, who was the lead attorney in both E. Jean Carroll cases, gave an interview in recent days. And she said, rest assured, Donald Trump will be made to pay this money judgment, and we will avail ourselves of all enforcement vehicles. And I can't say I am certainly not an expert on how you go about executing these money judgments, particularly in the state of New York. Each state, each jurisdiction has its own unique rules. But I will say that because the E. Jean Carroll cases were decided before the civil fraud, business fraud case in New York, I have a feeling it will take some priority over the massive money judgment in the civil fraud case. I have a feeling E. Jean Carroll basically might be first in line to start to grab hold of some of Donald Trump's assets. It also wouldn't surprise me if you saw some coordination between E. Jean Carroll's lawyers and Attorney General Letitia James, prosecutors, and they kind of work toward the same goal, which is having all of these money judgments satisfied.
Well, will we know whether or not Donald Trump comes up with the money at the end of that 30-day mark?
I think we'll see something filed in court, assuming he doesn't come up with the money. You're going to see some more litigation. But boy, if he was on the losing end when it came to the trial on the merits, and let's face it, he has an unabated string of losses in his cases, he's really on the losing end now because he has nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The money judgment will be entered, it will be final, and 30 days from the date it's final, money's got to start coming in, even if it is entirely against Donald Trump's will by, putting liens on his property, seizing property, garnishing wages, and taking advantage of whatever other enforcement mechanisms there might be.
And finally, if he doesn't come up with the money, does he incur a further financial penalty beyond that? Like, does more interest accrue? Does he get hit again if day 31 comes about and he still hasn't paid the money?
Interest accrues every day. This debt that he now owes is outstanding. So, I think this could really spell the end of Donald Trump, the businessman. I don't know that Donald Trump was ever a legitimate billionaire, probably a millionaire, maybe a thousandaire, who knows? But I think he was always overinflating his assets. And here is one data point that I think that is worth talking about. He gave a deposition not too long ago, and in that deposition, he said under oath, "Oh, I have at least $400 million of cash on hand." So if Donald Trump says that, the one thing that I'm sure of is that Donald Trump doesn't have $400 million of cash on hand,
Yeah.
because we know he's a liar. We know he always overinflates his own assets, his own value, his own worth. So it could be that the guy's only got $100 million. I know, poor him, but still, he's going to come nowhere near being able to satisfy these money judgments. And then it's going to be, the Trump fire sale. Come on down to Trump Tower and get yourself a nice gold-plated toilet or whatever else might be sold out of Trump Tower.
Yeah, well, you know what? He'll just keep selling pairs of sneakers, one pair at a time, to try to bulk up that net worth. With that said, we'll obviously have an answer within the next couple of days in terms of whether Trump's at least going to be able to satisfy the judgment that was handed down in the E. Jean Carroll ruling. So if you want to stay on top of whatever happens next, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on this screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.